The unthinkable war, hook and suspense. The galaxy was in turmoil. Alien factions from across the stars had united under one banner, their eyes set on Earth. For years, humanity had made waves in the galactic scene, building alliances, exploring new worlds, and defending their own. But none of that could prepare them for what was about to happen. It all started when the first wave of invaders appeared at the edge of human space, their ships massive and dark, blotting out the stars. They came without warning, without provocation. The Galactic Empire, as they called themselves, was ruthless. Their goal was clear: wipe humanity from existence. They were led by a race known as the Vorith, a cold and calculating species that had conquered dozens of worlds, subjugating entire civilizations in their wake. The Vorith were no strangers to war, and they believed themselves to be unstoppable. At first, the galaxy laughed at humanity's audacity. How could a young, untested species stand against the might of the Galactic Empire? Earth had no advanced warships like the other spacefaring races. Their fleets were small, outdated, and underprepared for the battle ahead. The Empire had long anticipated an easy victory, but humanity refused to back down. The war began in the most unexpected of ways, with a single desperate human pilot in a rickety fighter, refusing to surrender. That pilot, a man named Captain Jack Collins, made a decision that would echo across the stars. With the odds stacked against him, Collins managed to destroy the Empire's flagship in a reckless but brilliant maneuver. It was a victory, but a small one. The Empire would not be so easily deterred. Despite the loss, the Vorith Empire responded with overwhelming force. They sent wave after wave of ships, each larger and more powerful than the last. They wanted to crush humanity, to break its spirit once and for all. But humanity wasn't like the other races they had conquered. They fought not just for survival, but for their very way of life. The humans quickly learned the brutal realities of war. Cities fell. The Earth was scared by battles fought in orbit and on the ground. The Vorith Empire didn't hold back. They decimated everything in their path. Yet, even in the face of utter destruction, humanity's resolve did not falter. People from every corner of the Earth united, from the smallest villages to the largest cities. The fighting spirit of humanity, once underestimated by the Empire, began to shine through. Captain Collins' victory wasn't a fluke. It was a symbol. Soon, human soldiers, scientists, and engineers began using every tool at their disposal to fight back. Makeshift weapons were crafted from scraps of destroyed ships, and technology that had once been seen as outdated was reworked into deadly new forms. Humans had no choice but to adapt, to survive, and that's exactly what they did. The story of the war was unfolding in real time. Messages from the front lines came in with news of impossible victories, where small bands of human fighters were able to outwit the Empire's massive fleets. People began to believe again, a flicker of hope lighting up even the darkest corners of human space. But with each victory, the Vorith grew more ruthless. They began to target civilian populations, aiming to break humanity's will by hitting its heart. The humans were pushed to the edge. Entire colonies were obliterated. The people of Earth were forced to evacuate cities and hide in underground bunkers. But just when it seemed like there was no hope left, humanity's greatest asset, its creativity and determination, began to shine. They had no vast fleets, no superior weaponry, but they had something the Vorith lacked: the ability to think outside the box. It was at this critical moment that the first major breakthrough occurred. A group of human engineers, working in secret, had developed a new type of weapon, one that could counter the Empire's advanced technology. It wasn't a massive fleet or an army, but a single weapon capable of changing the tide of the war. The weapon wasn't perfect, but it gave humanity a fighting chance. It was the first real sign that the Empire might have underestimated humanity in the worst possible way. The battle for survival had become a battle for pride. Every human who fought knew that if they lost this war, humanity's place in the galaxy would be erased. They couldn't let that happen. And as the war raged on, something unexpected began to happen. The galaxy began to watch. The other species that had once ignored humanity now looked on with curiosity. The Vorith Empire had underestimated humans, but they were about to learn the hard way that this underestimation would be their greatest mistake. And as the galaxy held its breath, humanity was preparing to show the universe just what they were capable of. The first real counterattack was about to begin. The Vorith Empire had no idea what they were in for. The suspense of the war was mounting. Could humanity hold on long enough to turn the tide, or was the galaxy about to see the fall of one of its newest species? The galaxy would soon learn that underestimating humanity was a mistake no one would make again. The rise of human resilience. The first glimmer of hope had been sparked, but humanity knew the hardest part was yet to come. The war wasn't just about fighting off the alien invaders. It was about surviving and proving to the galaxy that humanity was not easily defeated. The Galactic Empire had underestimated the resolve of the human spirit, and now the stakes were higher than ever. As Earth's cities burned and colonies fell, people found new ways to adapt. The survivors no longer waited for help. They took action. In the chaos of battle, humanity's resilience began to take shape in unexpected places. Small bands of soldiers, farmers, engineers, and scientists worked together, combining their skills in a way that no alien force could have anticipated. These resilience groups were born from desperation, but they would soon become the backbone of humanity's fight. Captain Collins, the hero of the first victory, was leading the charge on Earth. His reputation had spread throughout the galaxy, and his name became a symbol of hope. But Collins knew that no single person, no matter how strong, could win a war on their own. He called for unity. It wasn't just Earth's military that needed to fight. It was every human, every community, from every walk of life. And the people answered. The military began organizing resistance cells, guerrilla tactics used against the Empire's overwhelming power. These cells were spread across the galaxy, using every tool at their disposal to disrupt the Empire's plans. They took down communication networks, destroyed supply routes, and launched surprise attacks on unsuspecting fleets. Every victory, no matter how small, gave humanity the strength to keep going. The Empire had no idea what was coming. They were accustomed to fighting races that would crumble under pressure, but humanity was different. They didn't just endure, they adapted. On Earth, as the war raged on, new innovations came from every corner of the planet. Old factories were converted into weapon manufacturing plants. Universities became research centers for developing new strategies. And the people, ordinary citizens, worked together to create things that the Empire never thought possible. Humanity's unity and ability to innovate were becoming its greatest weapon. While the Empire continued to rain destruction down on human colonies, humanity's resilience started to show in the form of new technologies. The war might have started with humble, outdated weapons, but it was quickly becoming a battle of ingenuity. A small group of engineers managed to reverse engineer an alien weapon, creating a human version that could rival the Empire's advanced technology. It wasn't perfect, but it worked. With each breakthrough, humanity's fighting force grew stronger. The Vorith, used to their own superiority, were growing uneasy. For the first time, they saw that humanity wasn't just surviving. They were evolving, becoming something they hadn't expected. The war, once a one-sided massacre, was beginning to shift in a way no one could have predicted. Captain Collins and his team launched a daring mission to infiltrate an Empire stronghold. Their goal was simple but dangerous: gather intel on the Empire's next move. It was a risky plan, but it paid off. Inside the enemy's own shipyards, they discovered something that would change everything. The Vorith were planning to launch a massive offensive using a new superweapon, a weapon that could destroy entire human colonies in a single strike. The human team raced back to Earth, bringing the information to the resistance leaders. A plan was quickly devised. The Empire's superweapon had to be stopped before it could be used. The mission was set in motion, and humanity was about to make their move. Every part of this plan relied on human creativity, resourcefulness, and sheer willpower. The human resistance was far from perfect. There were mistakes, setbacks, and casualties. But through it all, the humans pushed forward. They weren't fighting just for survival. They were fighting to prove something. To the Empire, to the galaxy, and to themselves. Humanity was a force to be reckoned with. And now, the fight was about to get personal. The pressure was mounting as the plan to sabotage the superweapon began. The Resistance knew the stakes. Failure meant the end of humanity. But there was no going back. Every human who fought had come to realize that this was their moment, their chance to show the galaxy that no one could erase them from the stars. As the operation unfolded, the tension was palpable. Could they pull off the impossible and stop the Empire's devastating weapon before it was too late? The answer lay in the bravery and resolve of humanity's finest. They were no longer the underdogs. They had become a symbol of strength, of survival, and above all, of resilience. The first true victory against the Empire's might was within reach. Humanity was no longer just fighting to survive. They were fighting to change the course of the war forever. The power of human ingenuity. The war was shifting, and humanity's greatest strength wasn't its size or its weapons. It was its ability to adapt, to create, and to think in ways that the Vorth Empire had never anticipated. As the human resistance grew stronger, the ingenuity of Earth's people became the decisive factor in the conflict. What the humans lacked in numbers, they made up for in creativity and resourcefulness. In the underground laboratories and secret workshops scattered across the galaxy, engineers, scientists, and inventors worked tirelessly to reverse engineer alien technology. They took apart weapons, ships, and machinery left behind by the Empire and learned to adapt them for humanity's use. What was once alien and strange became an extension of human will. Every tool, every ship, every weapon was re-engineered with the unique ingenuity that only humanity possessed. One of the most impressive breakthroughs came from a team of scientists who had been studying alien energy shields. These shields were impenetrable to most weapons, and the Vorth used them as a critical defense in their battles. For months, Earth's top minds tried and failed to create a weapon capable of piercing these shields. But just when hope seemed lost, a group of young engineers, ordinary humans, came up with a radical idea. They didn't need to break the shield. They could bypass it. By combining human knowledge of electromagnetic pulses with alien technology, they developed a new weapon, a pulse cannon that could disrupt the Vorth's shields for just long enough to strike. The weapon wasn't perfect, but it was effective. For the first time in the war, humanity had a way to deal with the Empire's most formidable defense. This was the kind of innovation that had always defined humanity. When faced with an obstacle, humans didn't give up. They found a way through it. As the human fleet began to equip these new weapons, the battlefront changed. The tide of the war had been turned, not by superior numbers or firepower, but by human ingenuity. The Vorth Empire had been expecting a quick, easy victory, but they had underestimated humanity's ability to adapt. Now, Earth's forces were using the very weapons the Empire had once relied on against them. The tables had turned, and the Vorth were beginning to feel the pressure. But ingenuity wasn't just about weapons. It was about how humanity used what they had in unexpected ways. The Resistance wasn't afraid to use unconventional tactics. Small, nimble ships were sent on covert missions to sabotage enemy supply lines. Human pilots, skilled in the art of stealth and surprise, began infiltrating the Vorth's massive fleets, planting explosive charges that crippled their command centers. The enemy had never faced anything like this before. The Vorth were used to fighting large, well-organized armies, but humanity's hit-and-run tactics were like nothing they could counter. One of the most daring and ingenious operations came from a group of human strategists who had a simple but bold idea: to create an entire decoy fleet. Using old ships and scrap materials, they constructed mock fleets that mimicked the appearance of human warships. The Vorth, assuming they were facing a major offensive, launched a full-scale attack, only to discover too late that it was all a trap. The decoy fleet provided just enough distraction for the real human forces to launch a devastating counterstrike. The Vorth fleet was caught off guard, and the humans scored a crucial victory. The ingenuity didn't stop there. Even the humble human soldier, equipped with little more than basic armor and standard-issue weapons, showed the kind of resourcefulness that made humanity such a formidable force. In the midst of battle, soldiers would improvise, using whatever they could find to outsmart the Empire's technologically superior forces. A soldier might rig a bomb out of spare parts or use a simple communication device to jam the enemy's signals. These small victories, though they may have seemed insignificant, added up. As the war raged on, the Vorth began to question their approach. They had never faced an enemy that could think so quickly, so creatively. The humans were no longer just a nuisance. They were a threat, a force that the Empire was struggling to contain. The galaxy's most powerful species had become the hunted. But the battle for survival was far from over. The Vorth were learning, adapting their tactics in response to humanity's new weapons and strategies. The war was far from won, and humanity knew that they had to keep pushing forward. They couldn't afford to slow down. Every invention, every new tactic, was a step toward victory. The future of humanity depended on their ability to outthink the Vorth at every turn. The power of human ingenuity had proven to be humanity's greatest weapon. It wasn't the size of their fleets, nor the strength of their guns, but their ability to create and adapt in the face of adversity that was shifting the war in their favor. And with each new victory, humanity's confidence grew. They might have been outnumbered, but they had something the Vorth could never replicate: the power to innovate, to push boundaries, and to fight with everything they had. As the war continued, the human resistance would continue to evolve, using their creativity to push back against the Empire's might. The Vorth had made a terrible mistake. They had thought that they could crush humanity with force. But now, humanity had shown them that even the smallest spark of ingenuity could light the way to victory. The unexpected turnaround. The battle for humanity's survival had reached a pivotal moment. The Vorth Empire, after years of crushing human resistance, had grown complacent. They were confident that their massive fleets and technological superiority would eventually snuff out the last remnants of humanity. But what they didn't account for was the sheer unpredictability of the human spirit. After each loss, humanity's resolve only seemed to grow stronger. What had started as a desperate, underdog struggle was beginning to turn into a true military campaign. The war's turning point came unexpectedly, in a way the Empire could not have predicted. A small but highly skilled group of human resistance fighters, led by Captain Jack Collins, managed to infiltrate a critical Vorth command center deep within enemy territory. The mission seemed suicidal. Getting in was difficult, and getting out was nearly impossible. But the group had one thing on their side: the element of surprise. Using the intelligence gathered in earlier missions, they planted explosives at key locations in the heart of the Vorth's strategic operations. These explosions weren't just physical. They were symbolic. The Vorth Empire, once so sure of its dominance, had suddenly been shaken. The human resistance had managed to hit the core of the Empire's leadership structure, crippling their ability to command their fleets and organize a coherent defense. The Vorth had underestimated humanity's ability to strike back in such a devastating manner. For the first time, the Empire was on the defensive. The humans had proven that they could disrupt the Empire's most critical operations with just a small, skilled team and a lot of determination. The ripple effect from that mission was felt throughout the galaxy. It was no longer just humanity resisting. It was the entire galaxy watching as the underdog species began to strike back in a way no one thought possible. Word of the mission spread quickly through human space, and morale soared. If humanity could pull off such a daring attack, then maybe, just maybe, they could win this war. The Vorth, however, were reeling from the shock. They were used to dealing with enemies who would crumble under pressure, but humanity kept coming, relentless and unpredictable. The Empire knew it had to respond quickly, but their leadership was now in disarray. The cracks in their once invincible empire were beginning to show. The human resistance, spurred on by their newfound hope, began a series of coordinated attacks across several fronts. Resistance groups, once fragmented and isolated, now began to unite under a common goal. Their strikes were becoming more coordinated, more precise. Humanity had learned from their earlier mistakes and was using their superior knowledge of the galaxy's terrain, as well as their resourcefulness, to launch increasingly successful raids against the Empire's supply lines. The tide of the war was shifting, but it wasn't just about military strategy anymore. It was about momentum, and humanity had gained it. The Vorith, who had once seen humanity as weak and disorganized, now found themselves caught in a war of attrition they hadn't prepared for. They were fighting not just for territory, but for their survival. The human resistance's ability to adapt and regroup after each loss had made them an unpredictable force, one that the Empire couldn't contain. A major turning point came when a massive Vorith fleet, scheduled to launch an assault on the remaining human colonies, was ambushed by a combined force of human warships, modified civilian ships, and guerrilla fighters. The battle was chaotic and messy, but it worked. The human fleet, with its smaller but faster ships, outmaneuvered the larger, slower Empire ships. The Vorith didn't stand a chance. For the first time in the war, a large-scale Vorith fleet was destroyed. The victory was a huge morale booster for humanity and sent shockwaves through the galaxy. The Vorith Empire was beginning to crack under the pressure. It wasn't just the loss of ships and colonies. It was the growing realization that humanity was not going to back down. The once feared Empire now found itself facing the full wrath of human ingenuity, resilience, and unity. The war was no longer about survival. It was about reclaiming what was once theirs and proving to the galaxy that no one could ever underestimate humanity again. The humans had proven that they could take on an empire with their backs against the wall and still emerge victorious. The tide was turning, but the Vorith weren't finished yet. They would regroup, they would retaliate. But now, the humans were no longer fighting alone. Other alien factions, who had once watched in silence, were beginning to take notice. Some offered alliances, while others, impressed by humanity's bravery, quietly pledged their support. The war was far from over, but humanity had proven one undeniable truth. They were not to be underestimated. The Vorith might have had superior technology, but humanity had something far more dangerous: the will to survive, and the cunning to turn the impossible into reality. The last stand of the Galactic War. As the war continued, the stakes were higher than ever. Humanity had come far, farther than anyone could have ever imagined at the start of the conflict. But the Vorith Empire was not a foe that could be easily vanquished. They had suffered blows, yes, but their military might was still vast, and their will to conquer had not wavered. For the humans, it was no longer just about survival. It was about ensuring that the Vorith would never again threaten their way of life. Captain Jack Collins, the reluctant hero, stood at the front lines of the final push. After years of intense fighting, the human resistance had been able to coordinate a massive operation, one that would either break the Empire's hold on the galaxy or ensure that humanity's fight would be nothing but a fleeting memory in the stars. The plan was simple: strike at the heart of the Vorith Empire's command, the very seat of their power. The resistance had managed to track down the location of the Empire's central command hub, a massive space station located at the edge of the galaxy. It was heavily fortified, nearly impenetrable, and defended by the Empire's most elite forces. But humanity, with all their innovation, determination, and now unity, was ready for the impossible. The tension in the human fleet was palpable. Every person knew this could be the final battle. There would be no retreat this time. If they failed, humanity's future would be wiped from the galaxy. The last remaining human colonies would fall, and the Vorith would take no prisoners. But if they succeeded, the Empire would crumble, and humanity would stand victorious. Captain Collins addressed his crew before the mission began, his words not of military tactics, but of what this battle meant for every human who had ever fought. "We're not just fighting for today," he said. "We're fighting for every man, woman, and child who calls Earth home. We're fighting for every future generation. If we fail, we die as slaves. If we succeed, we write history with our own hands." The human fleet, which had once been a ragtag group of civilian ships and soldiers, with nothing but their resolve, had now become a formidable force, coordinated and deadly. The Vorith were about to face the full weight of humanity's will. As the fleet moved into position, the final assault was set in motion. The first wave of human ships launched, and the battle was immediately fierce. The Vorith fought with everything they had, sending wave after wave of ships to intercept the incoming forces. But humanity had learned to fight smarter, not harder. Their ships were faster, more agile, and better equipped with the new weapons that had been developed over the course of the war. As they closed in on the station, the human forces engaged in a series of tactical maneuvers, hitting the Empire's fleet where they were weakest. The space battle was a symphony of destruction. Laser beams and missiles flew, creating a chaotic, dazzling light show in the dark expanse of space. The humans fought with the desperation of those who had nothing left to lose, pushing forward despite the enormous losses. Their fleet, though outnumbered, moved like a single, coordinated organism. Every pilot, every crew member knew their role, and they executed it flawlessly. As the battle raged on, Captain Collins led the charge toward the station itself, using a new, untested strategy, a direct assault on the Empire's command center, cutting through layers of defense to strike at the heart of the enemy's power. The resistance had planned to infiltrate the station with a small but elite team of soldiers, led by Collins himself. The mission was incredibly risky. The station was heavily protected, and any misstep would result in certain death. But the humans had a secret weapon, their ability to adapt. As the ground forces breached the station's outer defenses, they quickly found themselves face to face with the Empire's most elite soldiers. The Vorith knew that this was their last stand. They fought with a ferocity born of desperation, but they were not prepared for the sheer relentlessness of the human attackers. The human soldiers moved with precision, outmaneuvering the Vorith at every turn. Each member of Collins' team had a specific task, and every one of them executed their part perfectly. They planted explosives at key points within the station, weakening the Empire's defenses and causing chaos in the heart of the command hub. As the countdown to detonation began, the tension was unbearable. Every second felt like an eternity. The Vorith, realizing they were losing control, tried to activate their superweapon, a weapon capable of destroying entire colonies with a single strike. But humanity had anticipated this move. The human engineers, working behind the scenes, had already sabotaged the weapon, ensuring that it wouldn't fire. At the final moment, the explosives detonated with a massive burst, shaking the station to its core. The Vorith's central command was destroyed, and with it, their ability to coordinate their fleets. The humans had struck at the heart of the Empire and won. The battle was over. The aftermath was staggering. The Vorith Empire, once the most powerful force in the galaxy, had been shattered. Their leadership was gone, their fleets in disarray, and their control over the galaxy broken. The humans had won the war, but the cost had been enormous. Entire colonies were lost, cities destroyed, and millions of lives had been sacrificed. But humanity had prevailed. They had proven that no force in the galaxy could stand against them. And as the smoke cleared, Captain Collins and his team stood victorious, knowing that the war they had fought would be remembered forever. The galaxy would never again underestimate humanity. The last stand had been humanity's finest hour, and from that moment on, no species would dare challenge them again. The turning point. The war was over, but the galaxy was forever changed. The Vorith Empire, once an unstoppable force, had been reduced to a shadow of its former self. Humanity, against all odds, had claimed victory. But the battle had come at a high cost. The aftermath of the war was felt throughout the galaxy. Entire worlds were in ruins, and the galaxy's once structured order had been thrown into chaos. Now, humanity stood as the new power in the galaxy, but their victory was not without its challenges. As the dust settled, the leaders of the remaining alien factions gathered in secret. They had watched humanity's rise with cautious curiosity. Initially, many had seen humans as a fleeting force, one that would be crushed under the weight of the Empire's might. But now, they realized that humanity was something different. They were not like the other species the Empire had conquered. They were resilient, creative, and relentless. They had fought back and won. And that was something no one could ignore. The galaxy was at a crossroads. The Vorith had been defeated, but new power structures were beginning to emerge. The question was no longer who would control the galaxy, but how it would be governed in the wake of the war. Humanity, as the victors, now held the fate of the galaxy in their hands. Humanity's victory had sent a ripple through the stars. Species that had once feared the Empire now looked to the humans, uncertain of what the future would bring. Some feared that the humans, with their newfound power, would seek to dominate the galaxy in the same way the Vorith had. Others saw humanity as a beacon of hope, a new force that might bring balance to the chaos that followed the Empire's fall. But humanity was not interested in conquest. The human leaders, having lived through the horrors of war, were determined to build a future that was different. They wanted to rebuild the galaxy, to forge alliances, and create a new order based on cooperation, not domination. They knew that they had the strength to impose their will, but they also understood the importance of diplomacy and unity. At the heart of the human effort to rebuild was Captain Jack Collins, whose reputation as a symbol of hope spread throughout the galaxy. Though weary from years of fighting, Collins became one of the leaders of the new Galactic Council, a council designed to bring together representatives from all species to rebuild a fractured galaxy. His message was simple: we can't undo the damage that has been done, but we can shape the future together. Humanity's first act as the new power in the galaxy was to broker peace with the surviving alien factions. It wasn't easy. Old grudges ran deep, and trust had to be rebuilt. But the human resolve, the same resolve that had carried them through the darkest days of the war, was now being channeled into diplomacy. Slowly, the alien factions began to see the value of cooperation. They recognized that humanity had earned its place at the table, not through force, but through the sheer strength of their spirit. As humanity began to extend its hand to the galaxy, the turning point became clear. No longer was humanity seen as weak or insignificant. The war had proven that no species could ever underestimate humans again. Their ability to unite in the face of adversity, to fight with ingenuity and determination, had cemented their place among the stars. But there were still threats lurking in the shadows. Though the Vorith Empire had fallen, remnants of their forces remained, scattered across the galaxy. These rogue factions, unable to accept defeat, began to form new alliances, looking for ways to regain power. Humanity, having fought to survive for so long, knew that they couldn't afford to be complacent. The galaxy was still a dangerous place, and the fight for peace would be an ongoing struggle. The human leadership, however, was confident. They knew that the greatest weapon humanity possessed was not the strength of their fleets, but the strength of their resolve. The willingness to keep fighting, to keep pushing forward, no matter the odds, was what made humanity truly unstoppable. As the rebuilding of the galaxy began, humanity stood at the helm of a new era. The scars of war would remain for generations, but the lessons learned would last forever. No species would ever again challenge humanity's place in the galaxy. The Vorith Empire had learned the hard way that underestimating humanity was a fatal mistake, and as the stars above lit the way, humanity vowed to never again let the galaxy forget the strength, resilience, and ingenuity that had won them the war. The aftermath, and the galactic legacy. The galaxy, once fractured and torn by the claws of war, began to heal under humanity's guiding hand. The dust of battle had settled, but the scars remained on planets, on people, and on the memories of those who had fought. Yet, in this aftermath, humanity's place in the stars had been irrevocably secured. The Vorth Empire was no more, and the power vacuum that followed was filled by humanity's unyielding will and the strength of their allies. As the Galactic Council was established, the representatives of various species gathered to discuss a future that was not built on domination, but on cooperation. The fear of humanity's rise to power, which had once gripped the galaxy, began to fade as new alliances formed. Other alien factions, once wary of human ambition, now looked to Earth and its people as a beacon of hope and resilience. Humanity had proven that, despite their early struggles, they were capable of remarkable things. They had endured the worst, fought back with ingenuity, and emerged victorious. Now, humanity's leadership was about to usher in a new era, an era where peace and unity could begin to take root. The creation of the new galactic order was not an easy task. There were those who resisted change, old empires and power structures that still clung to their former control. But humanity's influence was undeniable. The Council, with its new leadership, worked tirelessly to broker peace agreements and rebuild shattered worlds. Slowly, but surely, humanity's diplomatic efforts began to pay off. The galaxy, once divided by war and distrust, began to experience a slow but steady rebuilding process. At the heart of this new era was Captain Jack Collins, now a symbol of unity and leadership. No longer just a hero of battle, he became a voice of reason, guiding humanity's efforts to maintain peace. He knew that the road ahead would be difficult. There would be factions that resented humanity's rise to power, and conflicts would undoubtedly flare up. But he also knew that the strength of the human spirit, which had carried them through the darkest days of the war, would guide them forward. Collins often spoke of the lessons learned during the war. The galaxy saw our resilience, our creativity, and our ability to unite when everything seemed lost, he would say. It wasn't our weapons or our fleets that won the war. It was our will to survive, our refusal to be defeated. That will is what will guide us in this new era. The war, though devastating, had shaped humanity into something more than just a species fighting for survival. It had forged them into leaders, diplomats, and innovators. And as the galaxy slowly rebuilt, humanity's influence began to extend beyond Earth and its colonies. New technologies, born from the war effort, were shared with the galaxy, helping to rebuild worlds and improve the lives of those who had once been oppressed by the Vorth. But the legacy of the war was not just in the alliances forged or the technology shared. It was in the reminder that no species could ever afford to underestimate humanity again. The galaxy had witnessed the full force of human determination, and that was a lesson that would stay with them forever. Humanity's story had once been one of struggle, survival, and resilience. Now, it was a story of leadership, of hope, and of the future. The old powers had fallen, and in their place stood a new order, one built on the lessons learned through years of bloodshed. As the new council began to take shape, the galaxy's future was filled with possibility. But no matter what challenges lay ahead, humanity would be ready. They had already faced the impossible and emerged victorious. Now, with the Vorth Empire nothing more than a memory, humanity stood as the new guardians of peace, knowing that their legacy was one that would echo across the stars for generations to come. And as the stars above lit the way for this new era, one thing was clear: no one, not even the greatest empires, would ever again risk injuring humanity. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Humanity was not just a species to survive, it was a species destined to thrive.